Can you believe it? It is week 4 in our class, which really means, and maybe I gotta stop saying this, but it's true, it's week 8, which means, by the way, we are moving closer to that drop date, to where you have to make a decision halfway through a class. You have to make a decision whether you're gonna hang out in the class or try a different semester. And for some of you, actually, for most of you, you're doing great. You can get caught up. Hopefully, you understand my late work policy, which basically, in a nutshell, means you can submit work after the due date. I do discount it 25%. If you want to ask me about that, do so. Before I get into this week's work, I want to talk just a moment about what happened last weekend. So I don't typically, just because I don't feel like I need to say I'm traveling, but last weekend I happened to be traveling. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that I made a mistake last week. Is I set up the attendance post for week 3, um, did the video, published it, headed out of town. And then typically, and this is kind of along with what I said last week, not only do I work a regular job, I also typically take weekends off. And where I was at wasn't the greatest connectivity. So when I landed back in Fresno on Sunday, I got quite a few messages from those of you wanting to do week 3 attendance because you had watched my video, but I had not posted it for comment. I'd closed the comments. So anyway, it was my bad. Here's what I want to say. If you're watching this video, because I always feel like if I made a mistake, you should benefit. In this case, I'm going to give you an opportunity to submit something late without late points returned. Okay, so normally, going back to what I said before, your late points are removed for anything submitted after the due date. I'll give you an opportunity. Now, I was thinking about this. Should it be a whole day? Should it be just a single item? My tendency is to want to say single item, but I almost am also willing because I know there was a group of you that reached out to me. And like, if this had a major impact on you, because here's what happened, not only couldn't you reply, but you also couldn't work on the other work. And I know there is a more than a handful of you that use the weekends to get work done. So, justify to me why, if you either have already submitted something late and you want late points back, or I'll also let you use this in the future, right? So I know that's probably not completely like cut and dried, but I just want you to know I feel bad and I'm trying to compensate for it. So, whew. Okay. Now, the other thing was really fun to read this. So, moving on, let me kind of go moving on. I enjoyed reading the app Show and Tell last night. And I always love it when I hear apps I have not heard about. And as a couple of you post apps, where I went, oh, I mean, God, there's so many in the world, but there's kind of like a group of the most popular. So that was fun to see. Now this week, oh, and the Wolfram Alpha discussion, wasn't that Monday? I believe that was Monday. I actually ended up watching an interview with that guy, the guy who created it. His name's Stephen Wolfram, I think. Anyway, if you want, I'll give you a link. It's really interesting to see his discussion and all the stuff he's involved in. It's pretty amazing. Now, this week 4, is a little different. And the first item that we have this week, you have a lab test. And in this week, after this video, there's a video from me telling you how they work. And I've been kind of flagging you this whole time. Make sure you have Word. And I will tell you, and this is one of the good things about Discord, right? Is this student asked this morning, was having a hard time getting started because he needed to activate and enable editing on the file that he's downloaded. So Discord is a great place to ask questions. Now, here's what I will preface it a bit, is that in this exam, I don't tell you how to do something because the idea of an exam is to actually do it and not have somebody tell you. And that probably, now that I've said it, makes sense, but I'm just going to tell you, if you're asking me how to do something, I'm probably going to say, no. If you're asking for clarification what that thing is, I'll do my best to clarify it. And I actually looked through this morning the instructions that you'll go through in the word assignment. And there's two things I want to show you. One is that they ask for a cover page that I found was not on my version of Word, and I have a Mac, which is okay. You can use one that's as close as you can find it, meaning when it asks you to fill out particular parts of the cover page once you insert it. Okay. So it's about two steps in, I think, that it asks for that. So choose one, and I can just show you what I didn't actually submit it yet. But if you choose one and you fill in the information and it marks you wrong, when you submit it, which by the way, you submit it like you do everything else, you create a PDF of your score. Do not submit the Word actual doc file in the Canvas. Won't get you any points. What you need to do is upload it, and I talk about this in the video, so it's a little repeat. Upload it into my IT lab, just like when you submit your exams and trainings, but in this case, you're uploading and then submitting that in for grading. And then once you get a grade, right, you can either at that point, if you feel okay about the grade, you can go ahead and create the PDF. Or by the way, you can look at what you got wrong. You can modify that file you were working on. You do not have to start over and then submit that again. I believe there's 3 submissions on that one. Might be unlimited. I don't know. You could check. Okay. So let me actually now that I've talked about this, right? So this is the video where I was talking about this. I did put this here just as a reminder. This is not the week you're going to need a Mac, but after we do Excel and after we do Access, then you will. So I guess I'm just here to kind of give you the heads up there. So you don't need this for tonight. There's the lab test. So then we move on after that. So for the Monday night items, you don't have any discussion or quizzes. These are the two things that you need to submit. Now, here's the benefit of watching the attendance. If you go out to YouTube, one of my colleagues, Robert DeVoe Peterson, if you search on YouTube for Robert DeVoe Peterson word exam, you'll find an old version, but pretty much tracks with the version that we're doing. And if you go through here, he actually walks through the first couple of steps, not all of it, but the first couple. So you're welcome to check that out. You can see on his version, he actually had that cover page. Again, if you don't, just choose one as close as you can get to that. Let me show you. Yeah, so here was the cover page. I think it was called Sideline. So making sure you have a document title, a sub, and it'll tell you, you can see on your instructions which ones you need to do there. Okay. Okay. So again, Robert DeVoe Peterson, word exam, search YouTube. I think you'll be happy to find that out there. Okay. All right. So, I've talked about this. I've given you that little mini lecture on Excel, which by the way, Excel is so good to learn. I'm telling you, it's one of those things that the more you know about Excel, the tendency is the more you use Excel because it's so awesome. So then on our Thursday night items, which again, we're at the end of week 4 here, right? We're continuing our normal process here of a discussion item, chapter quizzes, and your second Excel lab, which by the way, I just wanted to go look to make sure I was actually just in the exams. But yes, Excel is out there, right? So and somebody was asking me something the other day, how to complete something. Oh, yeah, I want to show this because this might help you. And I had talked about this, I believe, on the first week, but I'm telling you, if you run into an issue, I'm not going to show you one that I remember it being an issue on, but in general, down here in the very lower bottom, it says visual aids, but just to the right of that, there's a virtual keyboard. And what you can do here is if your keyboard does not, and by the way, I'm talking about simulations now, I'm not talking about the word. Okay. But when you're doing the simulation starting with Excel, oh yeah, I remember this came up with Word. There was a plus and a home. And notice how when I do those two, it'll actually do the plus and home together. And then you can hit go. So if you run into something like this with Excel, know that that is a way that if your particular keyboard doesn't have these keystrokes, which it may not, for me, I'm on a Mac, I don't have those. Okay, so I want you to know that. And hopefully, you all are using either, if you don't know how to do it, right? If you have to read the instructions, either the watching or the practice. I find I do practice first, and then if I can get to it, I'll go ahead and do the next step. Okay. All right. So I was just making sure these Excel ones are out there. Okay. I think that was all I had to say. Let's see. What's the question, right? Because I generally ask a question, right? So in this case, right, maybe what I want to know is, did you hear all my suggestions this week, right? You might even list one or two in case somebody else comes along and looks at, oh, yeah, you caught these suggestions. Maybe you, because I gave you several in this example, right? So, anyway, have a great one. I'll talk to you on week 5.